As this message opens, the first thing that comes through is awareness. Somewhere, someone is pausing in the middle of their day or night because your energy has crossed their mind again. Not lightly, not randomly. It's the kind of thought that interrupts them. They drift into memories without meaning to, small details, shared moments, unfinished conversations. The past feels alive to them right now, as if it's tapping them on the shoulder and asking to be acknowledged. What's important here is that this connection was never simple. There were layers beneath the surface that never fully came out. You may have carried thoughts and emotions that you kept tightly guarded, not because they weren't real, but because expressing them felt risky. You may have sensed that revealing everything could change the dynamic or expose you to rejection. So instead, you chose restraint. Silence became a form of self-protection, even though it left things unresolved. Then came the turning point, a sudden shift. Something unexpected broke the rhythm of this connection. Information surfaced, words were spoken, or actions occurred that couldn't be taken back. It feels like a shock to the system, something that happened quickly but left a lasting impact. This wasn't a slow drifting apart. It was abrupt, unsettling, and emotionally jarring. There's a sense that the truth arrived before either of you were ready to handle it. This person's energy shows inconsistency, moments of closeness followed by distance, certainty followed by confusion. That instability created tension between you. It made trust feel fragile. You may have questioned where you stood or whether the connection was even solid enough to continue investing in. Over time, that uncertainty changed how you felt. What once felt exciting began to feel draining, still powerful, still intense, but no longer steady. Despite everything, the emotional charge between you never fully disappeared. There was an on and off surge of adrenaline, a spark that kept reigniting even when logic said it shouldn't. This kind of connection can feel intoxicating, highs that pull you in, lows that push you away. And when it finally stalled, it left behind unresolved energy, the kind that lingers long after contact ends. Now, regret sits quietly beneath the surface. This person is looking back with clearer eyes. They're recognizing where they hesitated, where they were inconsistent, where they failed to show up the way they should have. There's guilt here, a sense of shame, not dramatic or loud, but heavy and personal. They understand now that something meaningful slipped through their fingers, not necessarily because it couldn't work, but because it wasn't handled with enough care. Whether paths cross again or not, this connection has left a permanent imprint. It forced growth through discomfort. It exposed emotional patterns that can no longer be ignored. And even in separation, the bond continues to echo, through memories, lessons, and the quiet realization of what was lost. The Fool emerges as the heart of this message, and its presence is powerful. This card speaks of beginnings, but not polished or planned ones. This is the desire to start again with a clean spirit, stripped of ego, fear, and old defenses. This person wants a new chapter with you, but it comes from a place of humility. They know now that they acted without fully understanding what they were risking. There's regret here, not loud or dramatic, but deeply personal. It's the kind of regret that grows in silence, when someone realizes too late that they let something rare slip through their hands. Then the wheel of fortune turns, and with it comes a massive shift in perspective. Something in this person's life changed the trajectory of their thinking. Timing, fate, or circumstances intervened in a way they couldn't control. What once felt stable flipped, and what once felt optional suddenly feels significant. This card signals karmic movement, events aligning to teach lessons that couldn't be avoided. The connection with you wasn't meant to stay frozen in the past. It was meant to transform them. But the story doesn't move in a straight line. The Eight of Cups reveals emotional confusion and restlessness. This is someone who searches for fulfillment without always knowing what they're searching for. They may have walked away, believing there was something better or clearer elsewhere, only to discover that distance didn't bring peace. Their feelings have shifted many times, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't understand themselves. Now there's disappointment, deep disappointment, in realizing that leaving cost more than they expected. The energy of Sagittarius, mixed with fixed sign tension, adds another layer. This person craves freedom, exploration, and meaning, but they struggle when emotions require consistency and emotional accountability. They resist being confined, yet they suffer when they lose what mattered. That inner contradiction created instability in the connection. They wanted expansion, but they didn't know how to grow with someone instead of away from them. When the focus turns to you, the entire atmosphere changes. The Nine of Pentacles shines like a quiet declaration of self-worth. This person sees you now as someone who chose dignity over chaos. You didn't wait to be chosen. You chose yourself. You built stability from the inside out. You became your own safe place. There's admiration in the way they view you, and also a sense of being left behind by your growth. They notice how well you carry yourself now, how you've learned to stand alone without bitterness, how you didn't let disappointment harden you. It refined you. You're seen as self-sufficient, grounded, and emotionally mature. That realization forces them to confront their own inconsistencies and missed opportunities. You represent what they weren't ready to be at the time. This connection wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to awaken. It was meant to expose patterns, trigger growth, and realign priorities. Whether this person finds the courage to step forward again or continues watching from a distance, the impact is already irreversible. You changed them, and they know that the version of you that exists now cannot be approached lightly. As I open further into their emotional world, the energy becomes softer but more profound. This isn't chaos or confusion anymore. It's awareness. The Two of Cups rises here, and it brings with it a feeling of mutual recognition that never truly faded. This person doesn't see you as someone from the past who's been replaced or forgotten. They see you as someone they met on the same level, an equal. Someone who understood them in a way that felt natural rather than forced. What's striking is how clearly they perceive your independence. They don't interpret it as emotional distance or self-centeredness. Instead, they see it as maturity. You tend to your own needs. You don't abandon yourself for validation. And rather than feeling threatened by that, they recognize it in themselves too. There's a quiet acknowledgement that both of you value autonomy, dignity, and self-respect. And that realization creates a strange sense of closeness, even in separation. In their mind, you handled everything with remarkable composure. Whatever unfolded between you, they believe you carried it without unraveling. You didn't collapse under disappointment. You didn't lose your sense of self. That image of you, stable, grounded, emotionally intact, lingers strongly. It reshapes the way they feel about you now, because it reveals a depth they may not have fully appreciated at the time. The connection between you hasn't dissolved. It has simply changed form. It exists now as respect layered with emotional attachment. And that respect has grown. They notice how firmly you stand in your values, how you don't chase what isn't aligned, how you choose yourself without apology. That kind of self-respect is undeniable, and it leaves an impression that doesn't fade with distance. There's also something timeless about this energy. It doesn't feel locked into the present moment. It feels like something that unfolds gradually, often revealing itself later, when space brings clarity. This is the kind of realization that arrives quietly, sometimes days or even longer after the connection shifts. And when it does, it carries weight. Because you're self-sufficient and emotionally whole, their feelings never fully released. In fact, your independence amplifies their attraction. You don't need them, and that's exactly why they feel drawn back. You represent balance, a connection that could exist without control, dependency, or loss of self. That realization is powerful, especially for someone who values their own autonomy. This is why the idea of returning keeps circling in their thoughts. Not impulsively, not recklessly, but thoughtfully. There's contemplation here about revisiting the connection, reopening the door, or allowing a new version of the bond to form. It's less about repeating the past and more about honoring what was real between you, but with greater emotional awareness this time. When you ask how they see you right now, the energy immediately slows and sharpens. The Two of Wands appears, and this is not a passive image in their mind. They don't see you drifting or waiting. They see you standing in awareness. In their eyes, you are someone who knows a chapter is ending and another is forming, and you're taking your time before stepping forward. You're not rushing, and you're not fearful. You're choosing consciously. They sense that you're mapping out your future internally. Even if you haven't spoken much about it, they feel that you're thinking ahead, weighing possibilities, and deciding what kind of life and what kind of connections deserve space in it. That's where the intrigue comes in. There's something about you right now that feels slightly unpredictable to them, but in an intelligent, self-directed way. You don't move in obvious patterns anymore. What really stands out is how much trust they place in your judgment. They believe that when you finally choose a direction, it will be the right one. They've seen how you navigate challenges, how you learn, how you adjust without losing yourself. Because of that, they're watching, not out of control or fear, but out of genuine respect. Your decisions carry weight in their eyes, and that respect has grown, especially now. They hold you in very high regard for how you've handled everything that unfolded. You didn't react impulsively. You didn't let emotion override your dignity. Instead, you stepped back, recalibrated, and moved forward with intention. That maturity is impossible for them to ignore. It changes the way they see you entirely. When we turn inward to your emotional world, the energy becomes warmer, fuller, and deeply rooted. The Empress steps forward, and this is a powerful shift. This card speaks of coming home to yourself. You are no longer reaching outward for fulfillment. You're cultivating it from within. You're learning how to nourish your body, your mind, and your spirit in ways that feel natural and sustainable. You may feel more drawn to things that ground you now: nature, creativity, rest, beauty, or simple pleasures that reconnect you to your senses. This isn't escapism, it's restoration. You are rebuilding your relationship with yourself, learning how to offer yourself the care, patience, and love you may have once extended too freely to others. There's growth happening on multiple levels. Emotionally, you're softer with yourself. Spiritually, you're more aware. You're beginning to understand that love doesn't have to come with struggle to be meaningful. That realization alone marks a huge expansion. You're prioritizing yourself not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. You've also endured challenges that forced you to evolve. Some of those moments may have felt overwhelming at the time, but they shaped you. You didn't avoid the discomfort, you moved through it. And because of that, you're entering a phase where the waters begin to calm. Even if everything isn't perfect yet, the direction is clear. You're moving toward peace, stability, and emotional clarity. This phase also carries a quiet invitation: stay grounded. Cleanse your energy regularly. Release what no longer feels aligned. Do the things that remind you who you are beneath expectations and pressure. The more you honor yourself now, the more aligned your future becomes. What's unfolding for you isn't surface-level change. It's deep inner work. Old versions of yourself are being gently shed. New foundations are being laid. And the growth ahead isn't forced, it's organic. You are expanding in a way that feels true, embodied, and lasting. The Page of Swords emerges, and it carries a curious, restless quality. This person is thinking about you, and their mind is active, probing, analyzing, testing. They want to reach out, to bridge the distance, but their approach is hesitant, almost experimental. It's as if they're dipping their toes into your world, carefully gauging the temperature, measuring how open or receptive you might be. There's genuine curiosity here, but it comes with caution. They are not ready to fully immerse themselves yet. What becomes clear is that any communication they initiate is likely to be brief. The Page of Swords signals fleeting contact, small gestures, or short conversations, rather than full, sustained connection. It's almost like they're testing the waters, trying to see if a door still exists without committing to walking through it. While this energy shows interest, it also carries an undercurrent of uncertainty, an awareness that stepping too fully into this connection could bring discomfort or reveal vulnerabilities they aren't ready to face. The Ace of Pentacles amplifies the sense of opportunity intertwined with hesitation. There is a desire here for a fresh start, a new beginning, a chance to reconnect in a meaningful way. Yet, at the same time, there's a heavy sense of practicality weighing them down. It's not all excitement and emotional spontaneity. Part of them feels compelled to move forward along a path that seems right, in a logical sense, even if it doesn't stir their heart. There's a subtle resignation here. The pull of duty or circumstance might force them into choices they don't fully desire. You can almost see them walking away, head slightly bowed, carrying the weight of unspoken feelings. There's an internal tension between longing and responsibility, between wanting to explore the connection with you and feeling like they aren't quite equipped to do so. It's as though they recognize the possibility of something meaningful with you, yet simultaneously feel inadequate or unprepared for it. That friction keeps them moving in cautious, careful steps rather than leaping forward. Even so, there's a lingering magnetism they cannot fully ignore. Curiosity about you, about what you are doing, about the life you are building, persists in their mind. This is not a fleeting thought that will vanish. It's an echo, subtle but persistent, a whisper that follows them even as they attempt to walk a more practical path. The energy suggests that even if they choose to distance themselves or pursue something that feels safer, your presence continues to occupy space in their awareness. When we step into this energy, the King of Wands rises as a figure of undeniable presence. In their eyes, you're commanding, not in a boastful way, but in a way that naturally draws attention. They notice your confidence, your focus, your ability to face challenges head-on without flinching. They see someone who doesn't shrink from difficulties, someone who can stare a problem squarely in the eye and walk through it with courage and discipline. That kind of strength leaves a lasting impression. It fascinates them, almost magnetically. There's a layer of respect woven into their perception of you. They don't just admire your outward accomplishments. They recognize the inner fire, the determination that fuels every decision you make. They are curious about what drives you, what keeps your momentum so steady, and they long to understand the depth of your character. It's as if they're drawn not just to your presence, but to the energy behind it, the unshakable core that makes you who you are. Yet, even as they circle closer, there is a subtle hesitation in their approach. The King of Wands can command attention, but this person's path is complicated. There's another pull in their life, something practical, something that feels necessary or obligatory. They are moving toward you, but not fully committing. It's more like a tentative approach, a test of boundaries, or a fleeting attempt to reconnect. Their intentions are layered, part desire, part unfinished business, and part curiosity about whether the cycle between you could play out differently this time. What is it that draws them back to you? It's not simply attraction, it's repetition, a lingering pattern that hasn't yet been resolved. They are intrigued by the possibility of revisiting what they left unfinished, whether emotionally, spiritually, or karmically. There's a sense that lessons have yet to be fully absorbed, and this return is motivated by a desire to experience the dynamic once more, to see if they can approach it with new awareness. But the King of Wands energy also signals that they are observing your strength, testing their own boundaries against yours. The Eight of Pentacles rises here, and it paints a picture of someone caught in a cycle, an endless loop of effort without resolution. In their world, there is constant motion, always working, always striving, yet never fully satisfied. They pour energy into tasks, opportunities, or external pursuits, as if each new project or distraction could fill the emptiness they feel inside. But the truth is, no amount of outward effort can soothe what is unresolved within them. This person is deeply torn, pulled between what they think they should invest in and what their heart truly craves. They chase after external achievements, validations, or experiences, all in the hope of quieting an inner unrest that refuses to be ignored. There's a part of them that knows the source of their discomfort lies within, yet facing it feels daunting, almost impossible. So instead, they stay busy with work, busy with plans, busy with anything that keeps the raw, unprocessed emotions at bay. The Eight of Pentacles also speaks to discipline, focus, and persistence, but here it carries a bittersweet flavor. Their drive is intense, yet misaligned. They are putting effort into areas that may not truly serve their soul. It's like watching someone construct intricate walls around themselves, brick by brick, in order to avoid confronting the emotional storm swirling inside. And that storm is always there, quietly bubbling beneath the surface, waiting for acknowledgement, for release. At the core, this person is dissatisfied with themselves, even if they mask it well. The distractions, the constant striving, they are temporary relief, not healing. Each attempt to redirect their attention is a reflection of the inner turmoil they're unwilling to face. The Eight of Pentacles highlights this repetitive cycle, an ongoing pattern of effort without fulfillment, laboring outside while the real work, the work of the heart, the work of emotional and spiritual growth, remains untouched. There's a tension here that's palpable. On one hand, they are highly capable, focused, and resourceful. On the other, they are restless, unsettled, and emotionally torn. They are seeking satisfaction in all the wrong places, trying to master the external world while the inner world waits, aching for recognition and care. And this tension, this constant push and pull, creates a storm that is difficult to escape. There's a presence here, sharp and commanding, the Queen of Swords. To this person, you are clarity personified. They feel drawn to you not just because of what you do, but because of how you move through the world. There's a precision, a quiet power in the way you handle challenges that makes them stop and take notice. Being around you feels like standing at the edge of insight itself, where truths are unavoidable and illusions crumble. They believe, on some level, that your energy alone could teach them wisdom they've been missing. But this fascination is complicated. It's not admiration alone. It's also a mirror to their own uncertainty. They wonder if being near you, if seeing the way you think, the way you decide, could somehow guide them, could somehow fix what they feel is lacking inside. Yet beneath that curiosity lies a hesitancy, a fear of stepping too close to someone whose self-possession eclipses their own insecurities. Then comes the pull of memory, the Six of Cups. Nostalgia seeps in like a faint perfume that lingers long after a room is empty. There is a longing here, not necessarily to recreate the past, but to understand it, to fill the gaps that time and distance have left behind. They want to reconnect, but not always for you, for themselves. Your presence is a compass, a mirror, a measure of where they've been and who they are now. And yet, indecision is written across every move they make. One moment, they are rushing toward you, spurred by impulses they cannot control. The next, they retreat, frozen by doubt, unsure what they might encounter if they step fully into your world. There is restlessness in every thought, hesitation in every step, and a tension that makes their approach feel unpredictable, even electric. At times, it seems they are walking a tightrope between desire and duty. Something practical or obligatory tugs them away, pulling them toward choices they feel they should make, rather than ones that stir their heart. Their attraction is real, magnetic, undeniable, but it is entangled with fears, with responsibilities, with their own unfinished inner work. This is a person caught in a cycle of seeking, retreating, and seeking again. They are compelled to engage, compelled to learn, compelled to understand, but they are also compelled to step back, to shield themselves from vulnerability. And all the while, they cannot forget you. You linger in their mind, not as a fleeting thought, but as a presence that challenges, inspires, and unsettles them in equal measure. In essence, this is not about connection in the way we often imagine it. This is about reflection, growth, and awakening. They approach, curious and cautious, seeking clarity, but the journey they are on is ultimately their own. Your role is not to guide, fix, or meet them halfway. It is to continue standing in your truth, radiant, unshakable, and brilliantly clear. Their fascination is theirs. Your power is yours.